Hello and welcome to the Plat Rats Podcast. Today, as always, it's me, Vancer, joined by Wally Walrus, or as I think now he'll be known, R Neds.
Yep, what's up?
Um, and today we're talking about the RLCS Season X Fall European Regional Event 2, Stage 1, and that's Group A and Group B. So this past weekend. We're going to do things a little bit different. We've been going probably far too in depth on some of the games, and that really doesn't matter. We should just tell you the games to watch, and you can go watch them. So we're gonna get a little more general with a lot of those games, I think, and we're gonna kind of hit topics as opposed to a run through and give a little more opinion to it because I feel like we're just spewing facts at you, and that's not fun to listen to. So we're gonna change things up a little bit. And hopefully it goes all right. Hopefully it's a little bit shorter, but who knows because we haven't even tested this yet. So we're going to start with Group A. Um, and is there anything you notice, right off the bat, these 8 teams making it in?
I'm thinking maybe Oxygen Esports not making it through. That could be something we
Yeah.
touch upon. Not making it into the top 8. Little
Yeah, this
fishy,
is
but it's not that suspicious for the regionals because they didn't make it in the first one, I believe, either.
yes. This is the second regional in a row Oxygen has missed out on the top 16, which is not something you want to see out of them right now. Those who did make it in from Group A, though, we've got Giants, BDS, Barca, Monkeys, Libertas, Magnifico, Barrage, and Guild. So Oxygen, the first team to miss out, winning 11 games and losing 11 games, finishing 2 and 3. But that's not good for Oxygen. This is, a team that coming into Season X, they were supposed to be the, second in Europe, only beaten out by Vitality, and that's very clearly not the case nowadays. But it baffles me that they're not able to move on because, like, sure, it happens sometimes you don't get into the top 16, but like 2 regionals in a row, and when you look at their grid performances, this is a team that should do that easily. Week 1 they got to the finals and lost to Triple Trouble. Week 2 semifinals they lose to Vitality. Week 3 quarterfinals lose to Barca, and week 4 they get to the finals and lose to Top Log. So every single time they're in the top 8 for the grid. I don't know if it's they're playing teams they know better. They're playing less Rocket League, so they're less tired. I don't know if what it is or pressure, but yeah, Oxygen is struggling right now.
Yeah, I think it's really. I'm as confused as you are, to be honest. I think they bring it up a lot on the streams a lot where there might be a difference in how they play when they're on their own channel because they get streamed with or like through Johnny Boy. That's
Yeah,
what they get streamed on for the grid, and then there's less viewers maybe, and it's like
less
more
pressure.
relaxed.
Yeah,
And then they get put on the main Rocket League channel with. I know that the first weekend they had 100,000 people watching that stream. It tapered down to around 30 to 40 when I was watching this weekend. But
yeah,
there might be something in their heads where when they're on that main Rocket League channel that they just aren't performing as well. But this weekend was surprising that they didn't make it. I thought they definitely could have pulled it out.
yeah,
But because they kept talking about how this is the best Rocket League they've seen them on this stream, because usually they're just much not as good on that stream,
yeah,
and as simple as that. And they played well this weekend. Astro was on his game. He hit some insane. I think he had a um double tap, like a triple tap kind of deal, or
yeah.
whatever you want to call it. But it was like it's not even like a little one where you get like little taps on the wall. He was first touch came like halfway, a quarter of the field length, and he got another one right in front of goal. So it's like
Yeah.
pretty far out
He was
and
slamming
absolutely
them.
insane.
Yeah,
Um, and I think it's just like we were talking about it before. I think Shawstat is not playing well. Farah was kind of pretty solid this weekend, but Shawstat was just not there whenever I was watching him, and I don't really know what the fix is, and I don't know what they need to do because winning the grids and stuff isn't bad, or they don't getting close to winning it and doing well with that.
Yeah.
But the regional event is where you need to make your name, and there's so many more points allocated through the regional event than just the grids.
Yeah, it's it's just concerning. You look at the players on Oxygen, and it should be an amazing team, but I don't know, like Chausette's good, but I feel like he just isn't the same that he used to be like season 8 Chausette when he introduced everyone to the Fennec and now everyone uses it. Like that was he like pioneered like yo use the Fennec and now everyone does it, and now Chausette ever since he's revealed his hand he just hasn't been as good. I don't know. He's
Not everybody uses the Fennec though, Fancer. I'm not.
you know what I mean. It became a viable
I sold
option.
my Fennec yesterday.
Oh,
Just
congrats.
sold it yesterday.
Big money.
450 credits right there. But no, I'm definitely with you. I think it's just concerning and confusing more, in my opinion. It's like, how are they not at the heights that they should be? And I'm not saying that they need to be number 2 in EU, because Giants are
number
crazy
2.
good.
If not
BDS
one.
are super good. Vitality's still clearly a good team, and it's just like you don't have to be up there, but you can't be finishing 9th in Group A. That's just what you cannot be doing.
And I don't know if it's a style change they need to do, if they need to implement Chausette more in the attack. I don't know if, like, I don't know if they just need to get rid of him altogether, but I really don't want them to, because I know Chausette and Fair have been playing together for a long time, and I still really like Chausette. He just hasn't been good recently, and I feel like there's so many other players that could slot in on so many other players that could slot in on Oxygen that would look really good, but it's just like, obviously it's too, I don't think he can make roster moves at this point. I don't think.
Right now
I really
they can.
don't know.
There's windows that they implemented windows of roster changes now. I don't know exactly when they come and go, but now they can't just drop a guy whenever.
Yeah, but it's unfortunate. I want to see them do well, and they're just underperforming. Did I say Barca? I meant Oxygen. I think I said Barca earlier when I was talking about Chausette. Am I dumb? I don't know. I can't remember what I said now. If I said Barca, speaking of Barca, that was one of the teams they lost to, and they played pretty well this week, finishing in third, only behind Giants and BDS, who I'd say are 2 and 3 in Europe. So to finish just below them, and your only loss coming to one of those teams, it's pretty nice. I think I'll talk about their series against Magnifico, because that was a pretty fun one. I think it was a solid series where both teams were really kind of playing their own play style, and Magnifico looked like was the dominant team, but Barca is really strong defensively, and just wouldn't let them score, and just kept their rotation going, kept the guys going wide, until they were just kind of waiting for Magnifico to kind of break down, and that's exactly how it went. Game 1, an overtime whiff from Demensa. Game 2, Greasy own goal, and that was the game winner. Magnifico came back and won Game 3, and it was looking good for them. But and then Barca just stuck it to them in Game 4. Greasy with an own goal to make it 6-0. So the mistakes were what really cost Magnifico that series. Granted, obviously that one own goal clearly didn't cost them the series, because that game was already over and done with by the time he scored that. Because I think that final game was like 8-0, so it was brutal. The final game, but it was still a fun series, and two strong teams, like Barca finishing third, Magnifico finishing 6th. So it's 2 good teams and a fun series. I think Barca, just the smarter team, waiting for Magnifico to make the mistakes, is what won them that series.
I think the big 8-0 was also even though it's like a nice series between the two of them, that 8-0 just solidified like the difference between the two teams right there, in my opinion. It just shows that difference in ability. There were just a lot of goals scored in that series as well. No game had less than 3, which is pretty good for at least enjoyability, in my opinion, as well. I like seeing the goals go in.
Yeah, there were
But
26 goals through 4 games between both of those teams, so very high scoring.
yeah, but moving along from Barca, but still sticking with them is series that I thought was really interesting was the Barca BDS series.
Following
This
round.
one went to game 5. What'd you say?
I just said the following round, going from
Oh
round 2
yeah,
to
it was
round 3. Yeah.
right in round 3. Yep, right after they beat Magnifico and coming off of they're both 2-0 right there, and then winner gets to just be done for the day, and then they don't have to play until next week, and they're already solidified.
Mm-hmm.
This series went to game 5. Um, honestly, probably didn't even need to go to game 5. I felt like that it was clearly BDS were the better team, and Barca were kind of just lucky to get there. I just know that even though game 1 it was very close between the two teams, you could watching the game you could kind of just see that BDS was the better team throughout
Mm-hmm.
it, and Itachi's been super, super good for Barca right now, and Ronicky was hitting his shots and stuff like that. But it just, they went back and forth for every game, but it never really felt like BDS weren't going to win if they went to a game 5. So Barca got kind of lucky to get to all the way to there, but it's still good on them that they were able to challenge BDS, which is still, as we just mentioned, and I agree with you that they are probably the third best team
Yeah.
in EU. You honestly, at times, you can throw them above Giants at depending on who's playing better at that
Yeah.
moment. But very good, no question about that. But I felt overall Barca and both teams played super well. It was just that you could just see the difference again in who was better, clearly from watching the game. But watching a game 5 game series is still plenty of fun. But it was a clear 2-0 win to finish off game 5 just to send BDS through instantly, so they were done for the day. But then Barca came right back in round 4 to beat Oxygen right after.
Yeah.
So then they were also done, and they get to move on as well. But I thought that series was a lot of fun seeing two high-powered offenses, because Itachi and Ronicky are really connecting on offense, and then Mark by 8 and Monkey Moon are just so fast together
Yeah.
and just work well together exceptionally. And then Extras there and Devo are both there also helping out. But both those pairs are just exciting to watch.
And I think I didn't get to watch this series, but seeing how they played against Magnifico and just seeing the scores from these games, my guess is Barca was playing the same way they played against Magnifico. Just BDS makes far less mistakes. Because
Yeah.
you look at all the games that BDS had. Game 3 aside, they scored 4 goals in game 3. The rest of the series, so 4 games, they scored 4 goals. So it looks like BDS was playing well defensively, and they just got less openings. This is all obviously I didn't see the series, but it looks like they played well defensively and just didn't get as many openings as they did against Magnifico. And I feel like so they found a play style that works against weaker teams, but against these stronger teams, they need to find ways to kind of break out and really, really challenge the other team as well. And not saying they didn't do that because again, didn't see it, but I might go back and watch it because you've convinced me to go back and watch it now.
It was a lot of fun to watch.
Anything else we want to talk about from Group A?
The only other thing I wanted to mention was Libertas making it through. I
Okay.
think Libertas is a team that you don't get to see a lot, and especially in this type of setting that where they have it on the mainstream for Rocket League,
Yeah.
you don't get to see them as often. But Libertas has been putting in some quality performances against big teams.
Yeah.
In Group A this time, they went to Game 5 and beat Guild, who I believe is a solid team.
Yeah.
With a nice offense. Their defense is very suspect at times, but beating them is a big step, and that's the one that sent them through to be the 5th place team for Group A. And the big thing that's exciting with Libertas that I felt was just Rizex and Rick's Ronde were both so much fun to watch. Those two guys were just on their game. Mike Boy was putting in a lot of work as well for them, but Rizex and Rick's Ronde were just there for every ball, hitting a lot of their shots. And I think in one of the games that they played, I don't remember which series I popped into for it, but they believe it was OT, and one of them just picks it up for an air dribble just to send it right into the top of the goal, and it's like, oh, game over. There we go. Move on.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of it. It's just an exciting team to watch, just because you don't really get to see them a lot, and their Rocket League just has a lot of the things that the top teams have. It's just that they aren't super refined at doing perfect things with it. So there's definitely more mistakes on their end. So they're not don't get me wrong, they're not a top team right now. They played very well this weekend, and great to be moving on. And I don't think that they are like bums or whatever. But because I think they were talking about in the grid, I kept noticing this team, and I was like, they keep beating Barca, and Barca's pretty good. And they just picked up Itachi, and I know how good he can be for them. So it's like, how's this Libertas team continuing to beat them? Because I think for the first 2 straight grids, Libertas beat Barca, and I was like, oh, so this is a new team I never heard of. And then I read their names, and I was like, those names are cool. And then
those names are cool.
Watching them play was a lot of fun. So I think if you wanted to catch some other games that aren't just the top teams, Libertas being one of them is an exciting team to keep your eye out on. I don't know if they'll be a mainstay in the top area of continuing to make it past but I think they're still an exciting team to watch. But that's all I've got for Group A.
Yeah, I think Libertas is like an interesting thing, because it's like, it's a team that I feel like will surprise you. I think is the perfect word to describe Libertas. They were looking really good through the grid, like you were saying, like Barca, they were playing really well against, and then they saw, like, they nearly beat Vitality in like the quarterfinals, I think, in one of the grids, and then they don't do super hot last regional, but then they come out in this one, and really just they made it. They performed when they needed to. They beat the teams they could, and they moved on. I think that's it's a team that's like, you might take lightly and you might not know a lot about, but they're not a team to be slept on, because they can show up when they need to.
Yeah, they did beat, for the first 2 grids, they beat Barca, and then next one is the quarterfinal one that you were talking about, where they went to Game 5 with Vitality. And Vitality had to win like the last 3 games, I believe, or at least the last 2.
They had their reverse sweep, and I think like 2 of them were in overtime or something crazy.
It was very close, and then this past grid they did poorly. But it's just an interesting team, so that's all I really have to say about them. Surprising team that could surprise others.
All right. I think we can go ahead and move on to Group B then.
Sounds good.
For Group B, the top 8 teams making it in: Fadeaway, Vitality, Solary, Liquid, Venic, Endpoint, Toplokes, and S2V Esports. The notable teams missing out: Singularity, Triple Trouble, and Dignitas, not making it to the top 8. I think I kind of want to talk about both Dignitas and Fadeaway, get the positive and the negative. Fadeaway, we'll talk about. I have less to say about Fadeaway, but Fadeaway was a team last regional that won their first 2 games, and then got reverse swept through rounds 3, 4, 5, and kind of left. Everyone got really excited for them, and then didn't make it out of the top 16. And we're thinking, were those first games a fluke? Can they kind of repeat that? And they showed that they're a strong team. It's a team of was it Tigray? Who's on that? Tigray, Freaky, and Ocelon. That's right. And and so 2 last season played in the RLCS, so it's 2 strong players. And then I don't know a whole lot about Ocelon, but he's been solid for Fadeaway. Able to beat Dignitas, Toplokes, and Endpoint. So 3 strong teams. Before this week, I would have said top 10 teams in Europe. Dignitas, I don't know if they're top 10 anymore. And I think I can kind of talk about them right now, because I don't have a lot else to say about Fadeaway. Just look out for Fadeaway. They've been playing well. Dignitas, top 8 in regionals last time around, losing in the quarterfinals to Vitality. Like, perfect Dignitas story, make it to the playoffs. Oh, we only didn't win because we lost to Vitality. Kind of way to look at it. But then you look at their grid performance. Through 4 weeks of the grid, they have one series win, and it's over the Monkeys. They then went on to lose to, I think they've lost to Endpoint twice. They've lost to Liquid 3 times. They've lost to Oxygen, Giants, and Vitality. They're losing to, granted, every team in the grid is a strong team, but like consistently they're going out first. And now this backs it as well. They lose to Fadeaway. They lose to 2 Baguettes and a half, and they lose to S2V Esports. I don't know. And the one team they beat, Game Up, I should probably check their roster because I literally don't know anyone on their roster. Zito, Scream, and Cal. So, I literally don't. I know almost nothing about any of the teams they lost to. And nothing about the team they beat as well. And that doesn't bode well for Dignitas, one of the most well-known names in Rocket League. So I really don't know what Dignitas needs to do. I don't know if it's just kind of waited out, because I know they played poorly when they first picked up Astral, and it was a matter of time. But I feel like they need to implement some more variety in their play. Every single team knows Dignitas is just going for an infield pass, and I think that's what Astral brought, was another layer, because you didn't know if Astral was going to go for a solo play or drop it off or do a solo play into a drop off. Like you never knew if he was going for a flip reset or if he was going for a backboard double tap or a backboard pass. You never knew what Astral was going to go for. But with Joriez, obviously no slight on him, he's just not as, I feel like he's just not as like greedy of a player, for lack of a better term, not as confident. So he's just kind of playing Dignitas' play style, and that's not helping them. They're only able to beat teams when they can get that infield pass in, and most teams know it's coming and can just read it and get rid of it. Against 2 Baguettes, they got swept. Against S2V, they only won 1 game. Like, you're not even winning games against these lower teams, and they're just not. I don't think Dignitas is a top 10 team in Europe anymore, and I think it pains me to say it as a Dignitas fan, but they're just not good, and I don't know if it's a change in play style, if we need to see a roster change soon, because I feel like Astral to Joriez was not an improvement. I feel like that's not anything crazy, but because of that, I feel like we need an improvement on Yukio. Whether he really needs to step up his game and just kind of really carry the load, or we might need to see a roster move if they don't pick their game up by the time season 11 or whatever it's called rolls around.
Yeah, I definitely am. I'm a firm believer that I think that Yukio is definitely something they need to move from. Which is sad to say, because you always bring up how well he played in that one season.
I mean, I feel like he plays well all the time. He's just I feel like they don't really utilize him as well as
I don't know about that.
Well, his shooting has always sort of been an issue, but at the same time, I feel like shooting is an issue when all of your shots come on like screamer infield passes and double taps. Like, it's kind of hard to be consistent with your shooting when those are all of your shots. But
yeah, there was an open net though in the last week that he was playing, and he didn't hit it. I was like,
if we're thinking of the same play, I end up seeing the replay. It was actually Joriez who missed it.
There was some play where it was on the goal line.
Yeah, chances are they both have probably done it.
Probably.
So
I think that Joriez brings a little bit more, like, he does a little bit more of like an unknowing type of thing. And that's what I think Astral brought. I think Yukio's just kind of like, he can pass it a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, Yukio's even more predictable than Joriez is, and I feel like Joriez is already kind of predictable.
So I think it's tough to have him on there, but I'm not really sure either. Like, this was bad.
Yeah.
They got swept by 2 Baguettes and a half. Like, it's insane.
Yeah.
And then 3-1 to S2V.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody on either of those teams. I know you named a couple people. God no. I didn't
even name players on
those teams. I
was
paying attention. I don't know what you said before. So it's just not a situation that is good for them. Not good. No.
Yeah.
The Aslan thing though, going back to Fadeaway, because I think you did touch upon them a little bit. Aslan, made some worldies of some saves there. Oh my. That man. This will fade into the next topic of fadeaway top blokes.
Go for it.
This was one of the games that I wanted to talk about. That man was a nut. Oh my. The saves he made to keep them beating top blokes. Like, top blokes were not on their game for that series at all. They are so much better than that. They are one of the better teams in Europe.
Yeah.
And they just were not clicking. It was just bad. And it wasn't even like they were keeping it really super close. I mean, game one, two of the games were they brought them closer, but specifically game two, it was like, I believe, around 4-1. It was just like fadeaways absolutely taking it to them. And then they got 3 goals in the end for top blokes, but most of them were kind of just gimme goals at the end that didn't really matter. There were some nice passes by Archie, but it was just so much just better play by fadeaway. And there were so many, and the Aslan save, I cannot bring it up enough. Those saves, if you just want to go watch some insane saves, just watch him throughout the entire thing.
Well.
But it was just super exciting to see a different team kind of do well, and they beat Dig, Top Blokes, and Endpoint.
Yep.
3 massive teams in EU, and that's who fadeaway had to get through to move on. While Vitality still went 3-0, but they had to play Game Up,
2 baguettes and Liquid.
2 baguettes and a half in Liquid.
Yeah.
And I mean, Liquid's good, but they haven't been amazing of late. I think that Top Blokes and Endpoint are both better than Liquid. And then Dig, even though they didn't do well this past weekend, you still can't think they're bad. It's
I mean,
just
also
like
Dig's only win was against Game Up, and Game Up's only win was against Yerma, which I think forfeited all their games because all their series say 0-0 losses.
But fadeaway was a ton of fun in that series. That series was super exciting. It was a quick one because it was only a sweep, but it was still a ton of fun to see, and it was really interesting to see a team beat Top Blokes so like massively because it's just been seeing them rise up and play super well. And you and I both love watching Archie, but they were just not on at that game.
Well, it's funny you bring up Archie on Top Blokes because Archie came in to replace Freaky. This was, Freaky's revenge against the old Veloce roster. And he beat them handily, it looks like.
Mm-hmm. It was a super interesting series to watch. But that kind of I don't know, it was just really weird kind of still to see it, but it was still a lot of fun.
All right. I think for my series, I'm gonna jump to round 5. Round 5 was rough for me to watch because all of these teams playing in round 5, I wanted to see move on, that being Trouble Top Blokes, Singularity, Endpoint. I didn't really have a preference for S2V and 2 baguettes, but of course they played each other, so one had to make it in, and 2 of the teams I wanted to move on couldn't. And one of my favorite teams that I know isn't a top team, but I just enjoy watching them, is Singularity. And they had the misfortune of running into a dominant Endpoint, like at the top of their game. Go watch this game to either love Endpoint or just feel bad for Singularity. It was one of the worst beatings I've ever seen. They had 19 Endpoint in 3 games had 19 goals and only let in 3. Like 19, that's absurd. That's like 6, just over 6 goals a game for Endpoint, and Singularity was scoring 1 goal a game. There's not much else to say other than everyone on Endpoint played really well, and Singularity just couldn't do anything about it. Like, honestly, it got to the point where there were so many goals I didn't know what was, just everything was going wrong for Singularity. Like, they weren't giving any sustained pressure, which gave Endpoint all of the boost and all of the bumps and all of the demos. And even when they weren't doing that, they were still scoring goals. It was just an absolute slaughter of Singularity. So go watch that just to see it.
Yeah, I did not get to catch that one. I just know that I was here with you in the Discord as we were talking about. You're just like, oh, there's a goal. Oh, there's another one. There's another one, and another one.
Yeah.
It's just plenty of goals on goals on goals. But I think, even though I didn't get to see it, I think we both can agree that Endpoint definitely should have been the team that would have moved out of that matchup to get through. So yeah, even if it was much closer, you'd still expect.
Yeah, I thought Endpoint was going to win. I just didn't think it was going to be that bad.
I don't think anyone expected it to be that bad. That's insane. But I can touch a little bit about also, last thing to talk about for Group B is the Triple Trouble Top Bloke series was a lot of fun to watch as well.
Okay.
This one I have less to say about than the other Top Bloke series I just mentioned, but this series was still a ton of fun. I was with you on this one as well. I think both these teams are some of the better teams in Europe, and it was just tough to see one of them have to already get knocked out so early. Yeah. But first 3 games are all overtime, and then every game was a 1-goal game. It was just super, super hotly contested. You and I were both happy to see that Triple Trouble could pull it out for game 3, so then we could get a little bit more time to see them at least possibly try to squeak one out. And then final game, it was as time expired, Top Bloke scored from a shot from the left, and it was a 0-second goal, and it was just like, oh, there we go, that finishes off right there. I was like, I wanted to see more Rocket League, but it was still a lot of fun. It was just, this one really showed Top Bloke's class, and just they were on their game much more than Triple Trouble were. It was still so close, so it could have swung either way, but Top Blokes were just much better than they were towards the beginning of the day, where they did not perform well against Fadeaway at all. So it was a lot of fun seeing them really perform, because watching everybody on Top Blokes, especially Archie, but seeing him, Casio, and Flame all play really well was a lot of fun to see them clicking to finish off the day and then see them move on. Sad to see Triple Trouble not make it, but I enjoy watching Top Blokes a little bit more. So it was nice to see them pull through, and seeing how they were able to beat them. That was cool. Something I thought was interesting was how many Octanes were on the field there. I felt proud of being an Octane main right there. Calyx was the only one not using one. And Vancer and I still don't know what car he's using.
I always can't remember. Is it the Peregrine? I really don't remember what car he
don't think it's Peregrine. No idea, though.
I should just look it up so this I should just look it up so this conversation can end.
The excitement is not knowing.
Yeah. I think it's when you take pride in being an Octane main, like the most generic car.
Gotta rep it up.
It's I think Group B was just painful for me to watch as someone who made my predictions of, Top Blokes being the 2nd place team and Triple Trouble being the 3rd place team, and having them finish 7th and 10th. I thought Singularity and Dig were gonna make it. I thought Fadeaway or Liquid were just gonna miss, and they both finished number 1 and number 4. Like, it was, all of my predictions were all over the place for Group B especially, and I feel like that's, honestly, it makes me sound like an idiot, but at the same time, it's probably a good thing, because it's, we're seeing some more teams. We're going to see more and more teams, and we really get to figure out who the top teams are. If the top teams aren't winning, then there are new top teams. So that's, exciting. I'm wrong, but it's exciting. So I guess I'll take that. And now we move
touch upon the grid.
Yeah. Before we get there, do you want to? So we have now our top 16. Any bold predictions for next week? Like any? We can just talk about stage 2. We won't talk about playoffs. But do you think any of these teams are gonna go? Or I guess one obviously has to. Which team do you think is going 3-0 next week?
I think you got to go BDS, Giants, or Vitality. I think it's one of those 3.
So you're going to take a shotgun approach. Top 3 teams, someone's getting a sweep.
I mean, definitely one of them is. I don't think any of the other teams will get a sweep. I cannot see it.
Okay, then what team do you think is going to get in on a 3-2? Make it a little harder on you.
I think those three will make it. I'm kind of just trying to think of who I think would make it. I think those top three would make it. I gotta think top blokes could make it still. So there's 4.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Barca won't. That's a claim I'll make.
You think Barca won't make it to the top 8?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
I think that's a claim I can make. I think Liquid might squeak through. They were clicking a little bit better. Fruity was on his game. Guild won't.
Guild won't make it. Okay.
I think Endpoint will.
Endpoint will make it. Okay.
I'm thinking of the team. So I named 4. I think I named 5.
You've named like half of stage 2 already.
I said BDS, Giants, Vitality, Top Blokes, Liquid,
Barca,
Endpoint,
and Barca. You said like 8.
I said
teams.
Barca wasn't making it.
Oh yeah. I thought you were. I just mean in general. You've already.
I'm naming a lot of teams. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think out of, I think Magnifico would make it too. I think that's my 8.
Okay. You were gonna just okay. You were.
I think I just named my 8. You don't have to do the same thing.
No, I wasn't going to because I didn't expect you to. I think the 3-0 team. It's got to be Giants because we can already see their round 1 opponent, and Giants' round 1 opponent is S2V,
the easiest,
and I feel like that's for Giants and Vitality, S2V, and then Barrage. I feel like those are easy wins. BDS is playing Guild, so who knows? Guild could surprise them. I want to say either Barca or Magnifico will be the team to make it in at 3-2. I feel like the deciding factor for that 3-2 is whoever wins that first series, because Barca and Magnifico are playing again to start stage 2, and they played obviously in Group A, and Barca won. So it's like I was gonna say Magnifico made it in on the 3-2. Well, okay, I'm gonna say Magnifico. Magnifico makes it in on the 3-2. Because I feel like they might lose to Barca again, so that sets them playing the lower seeded teams. So I think they'll then come back and make it in 3-2, and Giants will make it in a sweep. Those are my 2 predictions for next week.
That was pretty solid.
Now
I named a lot more than you.
Yeah, that was all I was looking for when you're like, let me go through everyone here. All right, now let's hop on over to the grid and see how
you opened the can of worms.
I did 2 almost. So for EU, I was say EU United. I almost always say that anytime I talk about EU. So the Europe grid, yeah, I mean EU United, it just starts to roll off and keeps going. So for the Europe grid for week 4, we had Top Blokes finishing first. So again, another reason why I thought they were like number 2 from Group B. I thought, they just won the grid, they're gonna be good, and then they barely squeaked by. You've got Oxygen losing in the final, and then they don't make it through. It's surprising. I feel like this is the first time that the quarterfinals have all been teams I would agree were like top 8 teams in Europe. You look at Vitality, Giants, BDS.
I'm with you. I'm definitely with you.
Then I'd say Top Blokes, Endpoint, Oxygen, Barca, Liquid.
I think Liquid and Oxygen are like the only ones. Not even Oxygen. I think Liquid's the only one that you could toss out and maybe throw in like a triple trouble.
Yeah,
that's the only thing. And then maybe Solary. Solary's kind of up there as well, but I still like triple trouble more than Solary.
It's funny you say that because Solary lost to Liquid on their way here.
Well, yeah, and then triple trouble lost to Singularity, so who then lost to Barca. So I mean, it's tough to say, but I would take triple trouble over Liquid in my opinion.
I think I would.
We just saw triple trouble not make it. So
I just mean in terms of compared to last season, like you think, all the RLCS teams.
Yeah,
are
I'm
just
definitely
roll
with you.
through.
Yeah. I'm not saying that what you're saying is wrong. No, this is I think you're definitely right. I think out of all those teams that made it to quarters, they all make a ton of sense. Even with Liquid there, I think Liquid's just the only. I think Liquid's the lowest. That's what I'm saying.
I totally agree because their series against Endpoint, they got swept and only scored a single goal.
That's because they're not super good right now.
Yeah, so that's brutal.
I didn't know. I don't know. Is this a new thing? Did they start adding the game advantage for who comes through the winners, or has that always been there?
For the grid, I think that's always been there.
I never noticed that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then I'm just a clown, bro.
Oh, for sure. Which is also makes it surprising because BDS got their win because of the coming through the upper bracket. So Oxygen swept
That
BDS,
series was fun to watch.
and then they beat the Giants.
They played bonkers.
I might have to go
For the
watch
playoffs.
these actually.
They were a ton of fun. I know I watched the BDS Oxygen, and then I think I also watched Oxygen Giants, and both those series were a ton of fun to see. They played super well, and it's like, is it because they're on Johnny Boy's stream instead of the main one?
Honestly,
I don't know, but they were a ton of fun. Astro was on top of this game. Everybody was popping off. That's a series if you want to see something.
Yeah, it's funny too. I'm looking at the Giants Oxygen. Giants scored 4 goals, then got shut out, then scored 4 goals, and then got shut out, and then scored 1, 1, 1. It's I don't know. I just think it's funny. Like scoring 4 goals and immediately getting shut out.
Both those series were super exciting, and then the top blokes finishing off for the win versus Oxygen. A super exciting series, that one as well. It was. You see the first game. It's like Oxygen wins the first one. You're like, oh, are they really?
Here we go again.
Are we going to see them continue how well they're playing that day? But you still have to look at top blokes who beat Vitality and then had to beat Endpoint, who just swept Liquid. So, both teams coming in really high, and top blokes just was like, our time to shine, bro. We want this win, and they took over, and there was no looking back from them. Shut them out twice in those final 4 games.
Granted, I guess they played a lot that day as well. Like, because I don't know, because I'm thinking like, oh, maybe Oxygen doesn't do as well in regionals because you're playing more games. But I mean, like, you know,
you play more in here.
Yeah, now that I think about it, like you're playing a ton here too.
Well, you said that at the beginning that they might not play enough.
Maybe I really don't know. I don't know. Yeah, but then Oxygen wins first one, and then top blokes win 4 straight to take week 4 the grid. So huge grid points for all those top 8 quarterfinal teams. And I mean, I guess that's all we have to say. We can talk about North America now if you want.
Yeah, North America I was watching more of the Rogue streams as per usual. Mm-hmm. And the streams for all of them are all on the separate channel, so it's tough to get a lot of different games in here, but it was really interesting. I was like, you get into the playoffs for it, and then you see Space Station. We just talked about last week how dominant they'd been, and then they make it through handily to get through, beating Charlotte Phoenix and the Knights, and then instantly beaten by Rogue right off the bat.
Yeah.
So it was and then Envy though is just like, let's make it to the playoffs and not lose a single game.
Yeah, that's frightening.
So to see Envy do that is just also really,
it's just scary.
They didn't even let up a goal versus the Pioneers.
Jeez.
They
perfect swept Kansas City.
And they held G2 to 1 goal for 3 of the games, and then 2 in 1 of them, and then Rogue same exact thing. So it's like that defense was on it. Yeah. It's just absolutely ridiculous to see. It was nice seeing G2 show their quality again. We were talking about how they weren't super great at the beginning, but then they are really hitting their stride right now. They're playing much better, even though you get swept by Envy and you didn't do much in there. But making it to the final for G2 is something we would like to see. I think watching G2 is a ton of fun. Yeah. I'm a big J-Naps boy, big fan. Yeah. But they're a ton of fun to watch. So even though it was a big sweep, so it went pretty quick, it's just more exciting to see Envy's just dominance in North America there, which is pretty insane.
Yeah, and I know after the end of last regional, they were talking to Reddles about the teams he was worried for, and one of them he mentioned, like the teams he mentioned were the Peeps, Rogue, and Envy. Rogue beat them, Envy beat everyone, and the Peeps swept the Knights. Like those are like all the teams Reddles said look out for, just showed up big.
Yeah, but all 3 made it to the semifinals.
I think. Right there. I think the biggest thing to take away from this is just Envy's sheer dominance. They
Yeah.
NRG sweeps version 1, so they're looking good. Envy beats them, only giving up 4 goals in 4 games. So beating NRG is huge. They then go on to not let in a single goal against Kansas City. They let in 5 goals in 4 games over Rogue, who just beat Space Station. And then they played G2 and only let in 5 goals in 4 games, who earlier in the day also beat NRG. So it's like they're beating strong teams handily who are playing well. And that's terrifying. That's like Space Station last week level terrifying. and it's crazy. They're so good. Or at least they were this week, you know. And again, it all comes down to the day. Because, you know, they played amazing during this, but then at the same time, it's like, you know, why can't you do this during regionals? All right, and that's everything for the North America grid. So I think that's everything for us this week. Thanks for coming out, and we'll do the same thing again next week for the next stage. Yeah.
In the playoffs.
Yep. And then we'll do it all again the following week for North America again. So,
Yep.
Thanks for stopping by. Bye
Thank
now.
you.